Hello and welcome. This is Africa in 10 minutes, brought to you by Footprint to Africa. Stay tuned as I bring to you the top business news. I'm Chamaka J. Uwadoka. Let's take a look at the headlines. Uganda cuts rates to lowest ever. Egypt working with Australia to develop mining sector. Africa is getting its first World of Astoria. And now the news in details. Uganda's central bank cut its benchmark lending rate to its lowest level ever, saying lending for small businesses remain costly despite recent policy easing. Policymakers cut the rate by 50 basis points to 9%, the lowest level ever since the East African country began setting rates as part of an inflation-targeting monetary policy in 2011. Inflation slowed to 3% last month, mainly due to a drop in food prices. Governor Emmanuel Mutibili said the growth of private sector credits remained below historic levels and the cost of credit for micro and small loans was still relatively high. He told a news conference that a cautious easing of monetary policy is warranted to further boost private sector credit growth and to strengthen the economic growth momentum. The economy was expected to expand by 5.5% in 2017-2018 July-June fiscal year, before averaging 6.3% over the next 5 years, mainly due to public investment, domestic consumption, and robustness in the farm sector. Officials are eager to return growth to its potential of about 7%, which it enjoyed in 1990s and early 2000s, to help absorb growing ranks of unemployed youths into jobs. The government is investing in a series of big infrastructure projects like hydropower plants and expressways to improve the business environment and attract investment. Mutibili said ongoing public investments could substantially boost output, but their implementation risks potentially crowding out private sector borrowers. David Magambe, a trader at Diamond Trust Bank, said the move would likely accelerate the lowering of private sector lending rates. He, however, cautioned that the impact of the cuts in the economy will take time. Egypt, which has been working hard for years to ensure an increase in the contribution of its mining sector to the economy, has gotten a boost, with Australian mining companies showing increased interest in the North African country's mining sector. Speaking at the Egypt Economic Development Conference in Sharm el-Sheikh in March 2015, Prime Minister Sharif Ismail, then Petroleum and Resources Minister, had said that the Egyptian government intended to increase the contribution of the mining sector to the GDP from 3.4% to 5% by 2025. The plan seems to be on course, as the Australian Embassy is supporting the visit to Egypt by two experts from the Western Australian Department of Mines, Industry Regulation and Safety, who will share their expertise with Egyptian officials from the Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources and the Egyptian Mineral Resources Authority. Australian Ambassador Neil Hawkins said, Egypt has huge potential in mining, as the dozens of Australians working at the Sukari mine near Masa Alam can attest. We look forward to increasing cooperation between Australian and Egyptian mining officials and companies in 2018. Sukari is one of the top 10 gold mines in the world. It shows what can be achieved here in Egypt when Australian and Egyptian miners come together and go for gold. To kickstart the cooperation, the Australian Embassy in Cairo, in collaboration with the Western Australian Department of Mines and the Egyptian Mineral Resources Authority, coordinated a two-day capacity building workshop on best practices for sustainable mining governance in Cairo from the 14th to the 15th of February 2018. The workshop was supported by Australian mining companies Allied Gold Limited and Resolute Mining Limited, both of whom are actively engaged in Egypt, as well as the Egyptian Council for Sustainable Development. Egypt has strong potential to develop further its mining sector and attract significant international investment. Australia is an international leader in mining, with years of experience and many strong, successful mining companies active around the world. In other news, the Nigerian Stock Exchange has approved the voluntary delisting of 7up Bottling Company, bottlers of Pepsi, Cola and 7up in Nigeria, after it received a takeover bid from its majority shareholder. In a bid to restructure the soft drinks bottler, Afelka SA, which holds 73% stake in 7up, had submitted a $70 million buyout bid, which was backed by the company's minority shareholders. The NSE had in January suspended trading in 7up shares as talks about a possible delisting reached top gear. Afelka SA, owned by the Lebanese El Khalil family, offered 125 naira per share to the minority shareholders of the company, who gave their approval at a court-ordered meeting that was convened at the instance of the Federal High Court in Lagos last month. The chairman of the 7up Bottling Company, Mr. Faisal El Khalil, said at the meeting, "We believe that the scheme will create considerable benefits and opportunities for all stakeholders of 7up Bottling Company PLC and will serve to protect minority shareholders from a continuous erosion of value. Furthermore, 7up Bottling Company is again assured of Afelka's long-term commitment to the company and Nigeria." Nigerian Vice President Professor Yemi Osibanjo has called on foreign investors to invest in Nigeria, assuring them that they can bet on the country's future. Professor Osibanjo said this at the commissioning of a second phase expansion project foundation laying ceremony for the third phase expansion project of Beloxi Industries Limited in Abara, Ogun State, southwest Nigeria. He said, before MTN came into Nigeria, there are several investors who thought, what is communication in Nigeria? And thought it wasn't going to work. MTN therefore committed itself into Nigeria, and when people saw what MTN could do in a few short years, all of those who didn't invest in Nigeria, I'm sure, regretted across all capitals of the world. He added, I want to urge foreign investors that with the way this country is going, Nigeria will not be recognizable in terms of infrastructure in the next few years. This is the country to come in for investment. The Vice President had also said that the commissioning of the new Nestle Milo ready-to-drink factory, also in Abara, Ogun State, Nigeria, that the Nigerian government was a ready-to-serve one, ensuring that we implement the economic recovery and growth plan to keep the economy on the path of sustainable economic growth and global competitiveness. Saying also one important component of the plan is the provision of critical infrastructure such as roads, rail and power, which this administration is fully committed to. We're fully committed to supporting companies such as Nestle as we spur growth and create jobs within the economy. The president of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and the United Arab Emirates Energy Minister, Suhail El-Mazuri, has stated that the increased production of shale oil by the United States will not hamper the efforts of OPEC and non-OPEC countries to clear the glut in the oil market, a report by This Day newspaper confirmed. This is coming as the managing director of Nigeria LNG Limited, NLNG, Mr. Tony Atta, has said, Nigeria must unleash its gas potential and support NLNG's expansion program Train 7 project in preparation for a world that is fast making efforts to reduce its fossil fuel consumption and minimize carbon footprint. In its monthly oil market report released, OPEC attributed the increase of the U.S. shale oil production to the steady gains in the price of crude oil since the middle of last year. According to the cartel, the oil price gains triggered more work in exploration and production, not only in the U.S. shale oil sector, but also in the deep U.S. waters in the Gulf of Mexico. And finally this week, for many Africans who have never left the continent, their first sight of the luxury brand Waldorf Astoria would be in the 1988 American romantic comedy film Coming to America. However, one may be coming to Africa very soon as hotel chain Hilton continued its growth and development in Egypt. It has been 60 years since Hilton first entered the North African country, but its appetite for growth has not waned a bit with the opening of the Hilton Cairo Heliopolis. The leading global hospitality company has also confirmed plans for the debut of its luxury brand Waldorf Astoria in Egypt later this year, once rebranded. Hilton has signed 2 management agreements with Gulf Egypt for hotel and tourism to operate Heliopolis Hotel and Towers Luxury Hotel under 2 distinct brands. A 593-room upscale Hilton property is now welcoming guests alongside the 247-room Towers Luxury Hotel, which will rebrand as Waldorf Astoria Cairo following an ambitious renovation program. Scheduled to be completed before the end of 2018, the refurbishment will create a new home for luxury travelers to Africa, bringing Waldorf Astoria's inspirational environments, unforgettable experiences, and true Waldorf service to the continent for the first time. The President, Middle East, Africa, and Turkey Hilton said, "We are beginning 2018 in style by launching our Waldorf Astoria brand in Africa and making Hilton Cairo Heliopolis our 6th hotel in the Egyptian capital. We are working with great partners, Gulf Egypt for hotels and tourism, and we look forward to great success with these 2 hotels, which give our customers a new and convenient option just 4 kilometers away from the Cairo airport and close to New Cairo." Managing Director of Gulf Egypt for Hotels and Tourism added, "We are delighted to be partnering with Hilton to manage these 2 landmark properties. With an array of world-class facilities and offerings, the Hilton Cairo Heliopolis and the soon-to-open Waldorf Astoria will set the standard for accommodation in Cairo and across the region." Hilton brings nearly 100 years of experience to these hotels, and their international reputation for service, quality and excellence will ensure the continued success of these great hotels. That wraps up this week's news. Please stay tuned for a recap of the stories. Uganda cuts rates to lowest ever to nudge private sector credit growth. Egypt working with Australia to develop mining sector. The Nigerian Stock Exchange approves the listing of 7up as a Felka SA buys out shareholders. Nigeria is ready for business, says Vice President. OPEC assures US shale won't affect global oil market. And Africa is getting its first Waldorf Astoria. Join the conversation on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and connect with us on LinkedIn. Stay updated with the trending business news in Africa. Log on to www.footprinttoafrica.com today. Footprint to Africa, business news made in Africa by Africans.